Right now, the Proteas women might have stumbled against England, but hope is not all lost at the T20 World Cup, as the team have shown against the West Indies that they can play some good cricket. Now, to talk to us about the Proteas women, we've roped in Cricket South Africa Director of Cricket to give us an update on the state of women's cricket in South Africa and currently just discussions around how the women are doing out in the UAE. A good morning to you, Enoch. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Morning. Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you so much. Enoch, let's perhaps start with, we look at how South Africa has done so far in this T20 World Cup, opening with a victory against the West Indies, followed by the loss to England yesterday. And also when we look at the build-up and warm-up fixtures coming into the World Cup, they were also just topsy-turvy. What, from CSA's perspectives, are your realistic expectations in this edition of the World Cup?
Yeah, thanks for that. Look, in every ICC event that we compete in, we want to win it. So we're not gonna say that we'd like to only just get to the final or just finals or not win it. But we've shown it last year in the T20 World Cup that we hosted that that we are capable of actually winning it, and by reaching the finals of the World Cup for the first time. So the team knows that, and they believe in that. So I know that the build up to the World Cup in terms of the warm-up game, it wasn't ideal, but I know for a fact that the coach and the captain were trying quite a few combinations to see what can actually work going into the first game of the World Cup. And it helped that we won the Pakistan series. That obviously gave a lot of confidence, because that was more of a competitive series, going, especially playing in the subcontinent, that gave a lot more belief and a better understanding in terms of how to go about it, how to approach, conditions in the UAE.
And you speak about trying out those different combinations between player and coach. Perhaps just going a little bit deeper in that, we know that, of course, it was an amazing World Cup we had here in our South African shores, where the team made the finals and unfortunately losing out to the eventual winners and defending champions. But since then, we could say that this team hasn't had it easy, because there's been the loss of some really experienced players, and perhaps the integration of the new players coming into the team hasn't been as seamless as we would have wanted it to be.
Yeah, ultimately, I mean, such transitions, sometimes they can take a while, especially, looking at different combinations, bringing in some new blood into the setup. So we're quite happy in terms of how the process went over the last sort of year, in terms of the team, how the team is actually growing, and also how the younger players or inexperienced players, have taken up those opportunities, and how they actually responded. So we're very excited in terms of our Protea women's team, in terms of the journey that they're actually traveling at the moment. And in mind, I mean, parallel to this World Cup, we also have another World Cup next year, which obviously it's a main one, the 50 over World Cup. So we gotta keep that in mind to make sure that whatever we do, we give ourselves the best chance, to continue to grow a pool of players across the board, to give us even better options or stronger options, come next year, 50 over World Cup. But in terms of this World Cup, like I said before, I think the DNA, the belief in the team, I mean, it is there, it is very strong. And it's just a pity last night that, we let ourselves down in small moments where we're a lot more in control. But I'm sure that the team will be able to bounce back and obviously review yesterday's game and see where they can actually improve against Scotland tomorrow.
Speaking about improving, we look at Cricket South Africa leading the way in terms of professionalizing women's sports in South Africa. Would you say that you're able to see the benefits of that now, when you look at just trying to close the gap between ourselves and the likes of India and Australia?
I mean, it is small steps in the right direction. We are very, very patient in terms of what we have done by professionalizing domestic cricket. But one thing we're picking up is that there's even a better understanding and a better approach in terms of what is actually being a professional cricketer at domestic level. And we have a lot of programs that are lined up to ensure that we continue to strengthen and close the gaps between domestic cricket and international cricket. So So we're seeing small things, but like I said, we're giving ourselves a bit of a process, almost like a 3-year process to say, we're going to solidify the foundation of domestic cricket, professionalizing domestic cricket. And thanks to the likes of Hollywood Bats, who have also come on board, to help us, strengthen domestic cricket and then try and close the gap between international and domestic cricket. So we're very excited in terms of what lies ahead in women's cricket, and there's no doubt that we will continue to attract more girls and women, to the sport. And hopefully we'll see even more new faces from domestic cricket into international cricket over the next couple of years.
And I want to move our conversation now to this. What would you say is being done from a CSA perspective to also ensure that we don't have a similar situation to what we saw in the past of having just one player of colour representing in a World Cup? When we look at the likes of Lizard Williams, that must be encouraging to you to also ensure that come 2027, we don't just have very limited representation of what we look like as a country.
Definitely, that is not going to happen. Obviously, we learn from the past, and we're ensuring that again, we're putting programs in place. We're engaging with our domestic teams because ultimately they feed into our Proteas team. So come 2027, one thing I can say is that we'll not have what we saw obviously in the recent T20 World Cup. Come 2027, like I said, there's going to be. We embark on a new plan also in making sure that we bring in some new faces and we give opportunities in different formats, and knowing that everything is in line with our vision of 2027.
Enoch, thank you so much for your time this morning. And of course, we're also hoping to see a lot more Test cricket coming through. That is Enoch Nkwe, of course, the Director of Cricket out at Cricket South Africa, speaking all things the T20 Women's World Cup. South Africa, of course, in action tomorrow against Scotland. And then on Saturday, they will be taking on Bangladesh.